Hello, and welcome to the Franchise Life. I am your host, Stacie Shannon. Today, we will be diving into a brand called Wallaby Windows. And with me today, I have Scott Marr, who is the founder and CEO of Wallaby Windows, and Ben Rickford, the Director of Franchise Development. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you, Stacie. Excited to talk with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So Wallaby Windows, this is a brand new brand. You are securing your very first franchisee. So Scott, as the founder and CEO, tell us a little bit about yourself and how Wallaby Windows came about.
Sure, Stacie. I'd be happy to share that with you. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Started my first business when I was in high school, when I was 15 years old, and it was a mobile service business. Had to have a friend that had a driver's license to drive us around because I didn't have one at the time. And so fast forward, ended up graduating from high school in 2007. And continued on with that same business and scaled it into an all corporate company. We were in 5 states, had over 100 team members, and we had several hundred clients at that point. And after scaling that for a few years on my own, I segued into franchising, realizing the enormous potential of building a franchise system and harnessing the power of others, in their respective markets. And so I ended up scaling that business into a large national business through franchising, and realizing during that time that franchising was something that I really enjoyed, something I was very passionate about. And so then I ended up starting Koala Insulation in 2018 in the home services space, and thought that Koala was going to be my last business. And in fact, I said Koala was going to be my last business, and then I was going to do something more local and less national. And then here we are with Wallaby Windows, just a few years later. Wallaby came up because we're in the home services space already. We actually have a lot of customers that ask for referrals to other companies, and windows and doors really came up quite frequently as a referral request from our customers. And because we're dealing with the building envelope in a home or a building, windows are part of that same building envelope. And so it just made a lot of sense for us to expand into a window and door replacement concept. We feel like that the market is ripe for another fresh brand in the space, and then also it just really goes along with our common thesis of delivering efficiency and improving comfort for the home or building owner.
Wow, what an incredible history! Scott, I love the introduction to Koala. What I think is really important to impress, given, Wallaby is an emerging brand, but Koala, you have hundreds of locations for Koala throughout the United States today, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we are just shy of 400 territories awarded with Koala, spanning 100 we're very close to 130 franchise partners at this point.
So huge success. So I love a good entrepreneur story. So, it's interesting. You thought you were done after Koala, but here we are with Wallaby Windows. So Ben, why don't we dive into exactly what Wallaby is, and perhaps, how you might be different from other window businesses out there.
Yeah, happy to. Really the core focus for Wallaby Windows is door and window replacement, right? Window replacement is kind of our core focus of our business. And then the doors are a great add-on for our franchise partners. You're already in the home with the customer. meeting with them, discussing that opportunity, and then on the way out, you're going to be walking right out that entry door, or maybe the back sliding glass door, whatever that may be. We have a solution there for the customer to tack onto it. So that is going to be our core focus, both on the B2C. Residential retrofitting is really, the day-to-day, the core focus for our franchise partners, but there's also a ton of opportunity in the B2B space, and we have offerings there as well. So multiple revenue streams for them, very, very exciting there. When we talk about differentiation, right, and how we're different than other window companies, really, when you look at the window space in general, I mean, this is a massive market. We talk about that all the time. It's a $31 billion industry space, grows 5% year over year. So a ton of opportunity. Primarily, it's fragmented, unsophisticated, the mom and pops, right, new competition sense. And then there's the major players, that everybody's heard of, right, the large national brands that are in most markets. So, but we found, and kind of from our experience with our flagship location and what we've seen, is the home service space in general, and this kind of goes back to our learnings with Koala, is really lacking when it comes to the customer experience. And I'm sure you have that story. We talk to people every day that have had some horror stories, and it's just always lacking and leaving people wanting for more. And we've come in with a really first class. We always talk about, we're obsessed with the customer experience, the customer service. That is going to be our core focus, is from top to bottom, how we treat the customer from the time that we target them with, marketing, and they call into our contact center. They're going to meet a first class experience there with our customer service representatives. They're going to book that consultation for our franchise partners. They're going to go there and give them a incredible, no pressure sales approach. We take them through options, really consultation is the focus there. And then from there, they're passed off to our operations manager, who's going to oversee the quality control of the process, right? So from top to bottom, from the time that we meet with them to the time that we do final inspection, we want to make sure that they feel supported and they have that trust in Wallaby and what we provide. So that is really our core focus, and I would say our main differentiator, so to speak.
So who is your ideal candidate? So Scott, I imagine that I'm guessing perhaps you weren't an expert in the window industry, prior to this business, but does somebody need to have experience in this area to successfully own and operate a Wallaby Windows, or what type of skill set are you looking for with your candidates?
Sure. So we didn't have window and door experience whenever we started Wallaby, and neither did we have insulation experience when we started Koala. So we had to learn the services for both of these businesses. And so as far as a candidate is concerned, no prior window and door replacement experience is required. We'll train, and that's obviously one of the many benefits of being part of a franchise system is getting the training from the franchisor on the products and services, and then how to execute the business successfully in the local market. So as far as the candidate profile goes, we're looking for folks that are sales oriented, understanding that the customer experience is of the utmost importance. So that is like the real deal in the window and door business. It's a sales and marketing business to a large degree. So somebody that is very comfortable with educating customers on the various products which are available is really key. Windows can have, a single window can have, hundreds of variations. There's so many different options for windows. And so it very much is an educational approach with a customer. So that's why we're really obsessed with the experience, and our franchise partners need to share, that same approach. So, and then additionally, we're looking for folks that are competitive. So we want folks that want to win, that want to be a part of a team, and folks that are gritty, because while we feel like we've done a good job of making this business relatively simple to operate and understand, business is not easy. It's tough. And we need folks that are going to, want to to continue to push forward even on those tough days.
Absolutely. And, so somebody that has grit, is really would be ideal for this. I know from here living in South Florida, Windows replacement is not inexpensive. And especially when you're in an area that is prone to hurricanes and so forth. So for myself, we recently, about a year ago, we had a quote for Windows, and for our house, hurricane proof windows, the quote was around $45,000. So, it's a big pill to swallow. It's like, and I still haven't replaced them yet, but they will be. So what do you see as an average ticket in this business?
Ben, do you want to take that?
Yeah, happy to speak to it. And Stacie, don't worry, we'll have a Wallaby there to service your needs before too long, right? I'm glad you held off. So
I hope so. And you know what? I'll just keep holding off. I'll keep that 45,000 in my pocket till you guys are in the area.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think it's worth mentioning. The one thing I didn't mention with our, differentiation is as you grow a business like this and the national franchise, as we grow our system and our business as a whole, there's a lot of benefits that come along with that, right? In terms of, whether buying power or, Scott and his team having exposure with our manufacturing partners, at the executive level, and really getting that level of exposure that you might not be able to get as a small business owner, right? So that's really, really exciting. And I say that because we are able to offer a wide variety of products. Like Scott said, there's so many options in the window space, all the way to the impact glass and, Miami-Dade hurricane rated, right? Everything that goes along with that, I think it's important to mention. So when you see from an average ticket perspective, we do highlight that in our franchise disclosure document. We're just north of 14,000 on an average ticket. So really healthy average ticket there for our franchise partners. And that's something that we're excited about with this. You don't need a massive volume to have a considerable business, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. And I think that's definitely a consideration when individuals are looking at investments. I mean, this is fewer customers, higher ticket dollar items, and that can be very attractive. So what does the model look like when somebody is starting out in their territory? What does the landscape look like from an employee standpoint? Ben?
Yeah, and I'm going to run with that, Scott. I'll just speak to that. One of the things that we did this business for, and I'm sure Scott can expand upon it, but we really wanted to make a business that had flexible ownership opportunity. I think in franchising, the term semi-absentee gets tossed around a lot. Absolutely. We like to call it the executive model, because as anybody knows, especially in the service space, there's no true passive, I would say, opportunity. You need to be involved to a standpoint, but we wanted to make a business that could truly be ran while still maintaining other ventures or another job. There was opportunity to be able to do that, right, for the right franchise partners. So we say that because there's not a ton of moving parts. We tried to make a fairly simple business model. So two options here. We also, we love our owner operators as well. We're not shying away from that, but we really designed this with the executive owner in mind. And what that looks like is, you as an executive owner, your job, we talk about kind of being sales oriented. Obviously, you're going to be mentoring those window consultant sales personnel, overseeing our operations managers who also are very customer facing. So you need to be able to mentor them and again, be obsessed with that customer experience, that customer service. Obviously meeting with HQ, financials, and everything that goes into running the business on the back end, right? And then I always tell people, you got to be a conduit for your own brand. Even if you're not customer facing day to day, we want you involved in the community. We want you out there, living, breathing, and, being the biggest representative for Wallaby that there can be, right? It's your business. So the executive model is one route that we go. 2 employees. So like I mentioned, window consultant, operations manager, 2 trucks, 2 vehicles there. Some window samples, some measuring equipment, and a ladder. I mean, that's it. Not a lot of moving parts. As Scott mentioned, this is a sales and marketing organization more than anything. With our manufacturing or distribution partnerships, you do not have any inventory on hand. So very, very advantageous for our franchisees in that sense. And then if we go to the owner operator, obviously you can fill either role, wherever your skill set kind of entails. But, we talk about being sales oriented. So we see most of the time people leaning more towards that sales role. But again, the operations manager is going to have some of that crossover as well because they're going to be very customer facing. So minimal parts, and then as you scale the business, it's adding those on. Sales and operations. We do subcontracted installation, so no hourly employees. That's something that you hear a lot about in the service space. Is scaling the business, it can be difficult because you're beholden to hourly employees and you have turnover, and it just can be one of those really big challenges. And we've learned that, with our business here. So we went with subcontractors and had really good experience so far, and we're really excited. We have an internal team that recruits those subcontractors for our franchise partners. So a lot of advantages there for them in that sense.
So let's walk through this. So this is a home-based business model. Given the owner does not carry any stock on hand or inventory, then they don't need any industrial space for storage or anything along those lines, correct?
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So what does the distribution look like when an owner secures a job and an order is placed? What relationships are in place that they would leverage? And is there a typical lead time associated with orders, or does that just vary?
Yeah, I'll run with that question, Ben.
Yep.
So we have distribution lined up. So we've got manufacturers that we've got prearranged for our franchise partners, and then we also have distributors that carry various products as well. So what that ultimately means for the franchise partners is lots of options for the customers, and that's really important because, as you know, as I previously mentioned, windows have a lot of variety to them, and people want different styles and colors and patterns and all this good stuff. So all of that is prearranged, and that also is what I like to call a tool in the tool bag, because some customers are going to be worried about price, and some customers are going to be worried about getting the best of the best window or door for their home. And so you want to be able to have a tool in your tool bag to be able to provide a solution for each of those different customer types. And so what we've done on the back end in advance of our launch was work really diligently to line up those relationships for our future franchise partners across the country. And we've done a really good job of that. And we work with some of the biggest and best names in the industry. One of our prime suppliers is Cornerstone Building Brands, the largest window and door manufacturer in the country. And so we're just really, really happy with that partnership. And they're providing great products and services for us. So as far as timing, that can really vary depending on the product type. Impact windows, for example, might carry a slightly longer lead time. If you get really custom windows, naturally, those are going to take a little bit longer. Windows, every window is custom. There's no such thing as a quote unquote standard window. Every window is made for a specific opening. So lead times, we've seen windows come in as short as 2 weeks from the time of order. And we've had windows that have taken 24 weeks to come in from the time of order. I would say the average is probably 6 to 8 weeks, is a really good rule of thumb to use. So yeah, does that answer the questions, or do you have any follow-ups on that?
No, absolutely. That does. So when the order comes in, I know you mentioned this is a subcontractor install. Corporate helps with recruitment of subcontractors. What does that look like? What does that help look like from corporate, Ben?
Yeah, I'll speak to it a little bit, and Scott, if you want to expand. Our recruitment team is specialized in two different areas. We have a recruitment team that's going to focus on those sales, those operations managers as well. And when we talk about that, that's a wide term, right? Recruitment assistants. I think our team does a great job, and we have a track record of really being proactive and not just throwing ads out on Indeed and that kind of thing. But our team will go as far as really sitting down with the franchise owner, understanding what they're looking for specifically for their needs, right? Making sure that they're collaborating on that, and then going out and helping to vet on the front end. On the subcontractor side, that's definitely important, right? We want to make sure the quality is there. So we have a very structured process ensuring, we're going to go through, the details from insurance and proof of work, things along those lines, but also all the way down to, demand for their services, right? If we always kind of throw it around, if they need us more than we need them, we're going to have trouble, relying on them to be a reliable partner. But what we've experienced with our location is we've established some really great relationships with a small bit of, we actually have two main subcontractor crews that we work with, and we keep them very busy, and it's a great win-win for both parties. And that's what our goal is to establish for our franchise partners. So we take that in mind as we start to vet them out. We'll do the front end, and then, our franchise partners will step in, and they'll be very trained on interview questions and everything along the line to help them really set themselves up for success, and, to contracts, all that will be kind of typeform for them to make sure that they have all the tools necessary to have a great working relationship there.
And that level of support is phenomenal. Well, I would assume you've leveraged a lot of the best practices from the Koala Insulation business and have applied it to Wallaby. Is that correct, Scott?
100%. Yes. I just reflecting on, our first confirmation day, this week as compared with, where Koala was when we had our first confirmation day, it's just night and day difference. So just a really, really proud moment for me and the team to see how we've evolved and the support that we're offering. Obviously, we offer great support with Koala, and we're that's taken us 3 years to get to that point, right? Whereas with Wallaby, now we've taken the best of the best, and we're going to be starting from there with Wallaby on our very first franchise partner. So really exciting, and of course, we're focused on continuous improvement. So after Ben and the franchise Fastlane team left yesterday after confirmation day, we were talking about what can we do better. What can be better for next month, and what were things that we need to discuss more with prospective franchise partners. So we're always focused on continuous improvement.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to deviate here for a minute because I'm looking at the Wallaby logo and proudly wearing my Wallaby shirt today. How did you come up with the name Wallaby? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so we were keeping on with the marsupial theme, and so ultimately, Wallaby just really rolls off the tongue, right? So when you're thinking, when you hear Wallaby Windows, it's just smooth flowing. But what it does is it makes people remember what we do because it is a unique name, right? It's not ABC Window Company or some other sort of acronym, and so it is unique. And plus, we have a fun brand. We wanted the Wallaby brand. Koala's more playful. We wanted Wallaby to be more elegant because insulation's out of sight, out of mind. Whereas Windows, you're looking at your windows every day.
Absolutely.
When you drive up to your home, when you're looking out your kitchen window, at the birds or whatever the case may be. So you're thinking about windows more than you would insulation, just generally speaking. So we wanted to have it a more subdued, not as colorful, and we feel like we really hit the nail on the head, and we proved that out, right? In our flagship location in Melbourne, this was the brand that we used to go out and in our first location. We went out and did really big things in our first year in business. So we did over $2 million in revenue in our first 12 months in Melbourne.
Wow. Congratulations. That is fantastic. So let me ask you this, Scott. There's a lot of talk around recession, and from your perspective, when somebody is considering an investment like this, how would you respond to a concern about starting a business, a home services business during a recession?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'm going to reflect back to 2008, 2009, 2010. So I was in banking at that time. I did skip over a very brief chapter of my career, which was I worked at a bank startup. So I was involved in helping to start a bank, and I invested in that bank at the age of 18. And so anyway, I was part of the group on the back end of the business where I saw all the loan applications that were coming in. And whenever a loan was fully processed, approved, and booked, I also got to see all of the data that went into our system for tracking those loans. And so obviously the great, recession of 2008 was, one of the worst of recent history. And I recall that, Home Depot and Lowe's really started to, grow during that time period because, and I saw this at the bank as well. People were, they might have owned their home for 10 years or 15 years. And, they said, well, I don't want to sell my house right now because technically on paper, it's not worth as much, as it was a year ago or 2 years ago. And I just don't want to, I don't want to exit because once I exit, then I lock in at that price. I either lock in my value or I lock in a loss. And so we saw people that were saying, well, I'm going to stay put and I'm just going to renovate. I'm going to upgrade my kitchen. I'm going to put in new windows. I'm going to, to make my house more comfortable because, well, I'll just stay here. And that's especially true. We were just talking about this yesterday at Confirmation Day, right? So we've just came out of a time of historically low interest rates, lower than we've seen. And, I don't know the future, but lower than we'll probably see for a very long time. I think, Ben and another person on the team were sharing, like kind of the interest rate on a mortgage that they recently got, like it was in the 2%, like low 2% range. And we're just thinking, wow, whereas now, and I just was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, rates are now at 6.4%. Highest they've been, I think, in 30 days now. And look at that, and you're really looking at total cost of ownership. A lot of people are saying, I'm not moving, not right now, because I've just locked in this interest rate, and I'm never going to get that rate again. And I'm hearing that, and it's even affected me personally, in other items. And so, I think generally speaking, the way to look at home services is that, there's always going to be certain headwinds and there's always going to be certain tailwinds. And so you really just have to look at it from that perspective. As it relates to, to home services generally, if you look at Home Depot's sales or Lowe's sales, and obviously they're selling goods, whereas we're selling services. But if you look at their sales, just generally, historically, it's been pretty well, just a nice steady incline for as long as you can see. And I think that that's a pretty good indicator of home services, generally speaking. So, again, and then the last thing I want to end with, I feel like I could talk on this topic all day because as a business owner, right, I think about all of these trends and how it's going to affect us and our franchise partners. But what I would say is, recessionary environments are just part of the economic cycle, right? So it's not always going to be a bull market, and it's not always going to be a bear market. So what you have to really analyze is, okay, well, do I have a contingency plan? If we saw a period, and whatever that period is, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, can I sustain? Am I set up for success? Because windows and doors, insulation, many home services, they're not fads. They've been around for years and years and years, and they're going to be around. They're not going anywhere. So given enough time, things will smooth back out. And at the end of the day, we live in America, and I am very pro-American, and we are always going to come out on top. And so you just got to give it enough time. So
No, what an excellent response. And, you're right. I mean, I'm one of those people, thankfully, that locked in. And when we moved to South Florida in July of 2020, our interest rate is 2.5%. And I have a sister trying to move from Iowa to Florida, and she's like, I have to pay cash. I am not locking in those interest rates. But so people are and will continue to invest in their homes. And, I'm a perfect example of that. We had to gut our house, and, we're still have some items left to do, as I mentioned. But no, thank you for that, Scott. That was very insightful. And with a brand like Wallaby, I am a huge fan of emerging brands. So, a brand like Wallaby, for me, are individuals looking at it. You are not new to franchising. I mean, you have to look at the whole story, the Koala Insulation story, the success there. I mean, there is wide open space today. And that is the beauty of emerging brands, where individuals looking at a concept such as this have the opportunity to find those prime spots, those, like the Dallas or, the Carolinas, Atlanta. I mean, those are all places where, we see a lot of interest from business owners. So, Ben, you had mentioned, where are some of your first locations going to be? Because I know that that we're right on the cusp of that. So where do you see Wallaby going in first?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, we've had a great momentum out of the gates. I will say wide open space, but not for long, from what we're seeing. And, and part of that is what you mentioned, the track record behind this. This is an emerging brand, but by all means, the team behind this is not their first rodeo, so to speak, right? So, but we just wrapped up a confirmation day. We have our next one coming up here in March, and already have 8 prospective franchisees signed up for that, with more to come. We were talking about that yesterday, kind of jokingly, how many people can fit. We got a good capacity there, so it should be fun. But yeah, I mean, the beauty of it, it's been widespread. We had prospective franchise partners from Nebraska, from North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. The next one off top of mind, Pennsylvania, Texas. I mean, all over the country. I'm talking to people in Arizona, coast to coast. It's been, like Scott said, Windows, it's not regional, it's not seasonal. It's, it's a want and a need in any market. I always jokingly say, if it's got 4 walls and a roof, it's going to need windows and doors, in today's world. So, yeah, we've really seen the excitement. We were just saying we have our first potential signing call here already on the books. It seems like everything's moving along good. And South Carolina will be the first to sign for a Wallaby Windows location. So we're excited about that. And more to come. Like I said, the momentum is just getting started. This was our first one, and the team knocked it out of the park. Like, again, they have the experience, and they've learned from Koala, and we're just seeing that pay dividends. And like Scott just said, the little bit of success that we had in the first 12 months at the flagship location, I mean, just scratching the surface. There's a lot of meat left on the bone there, and we're excited to see what some of our new franchise partners are going to be able to do with this business model.
Well, congratulations. So, on that note, from an investment standpoint, it's a phenomenal range. So for a single territory, we are looking at $136,000 to $205,000 at the high end, and with a very low royalty of 5%, which we don't see that very often in the franchise industry. So that is fantastic. Well, on a last note, I just want to thank you both for joining me today. You guys have been fantastic, and I am so excited to see this brand grow and hopefully bring you some great candidates to talk to. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions regarding Wallaby Windows or would like to learn more information, please reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks and have a great day. Thanks.